Hello, Tom Frezza here from the Naval History and Heritage Command, and today we are again going to be cooking with history with a recipe out of the 1945 edition of the Cookbook of the United States Navy. And the recipe we'll be focusing on today is for coffee cake. Now inside this cookbook there are a lot of different sample menus broken down by season. And if you look on Thursday in the winter season of the sample menus, you will see the coffee cake option. And coffee cake is good in the winter, and truthfully, I think it's good whenever, especially with a good cup of coffee to go with it. And the bakeries aboard ships could churn out a lot of this coffee cake. In fact, the recipe itself, the yield for the recipe is about 15 pounds of the mix. And the portion is approximately 2 pieces per sailor, and the recipe calls for 100 portions. Now, we're going to tell you all of the ingredients in this recipe and tell you what it originally was and then what the scaled down version is so you can try it at home. So the first ingredient on the coffee cake list is shortening. Originally 1 pint, we'll be using 1/3 of a cup. Next is sugar. Originally 1 1/4 quarts. We'll be using 3/4 of a cup. Next, eggs, whole. Originally 1 1/4 pints. We'll be using 2 eggs. Then you have flour. Originally 1 1/4 gallons. We'll be using 3 1/3 cups. Next up is baking powder. Originally 10 tablespoons. We'll be using 4 teaspoons. Next is salt. Originally 3 tablespoons. We'll be using 1 1/2 teaspoons. Next is nutmeg. Originally 2 tablespoons. We'll be using 1 teaspoon. And then finally, milk. Originally 2 7/8 quarts. We'll be using 2 cups. Now the makeup for the coffee cake. It calls for you to cream the shortening and sugar. Add eggs. Beat it all together very well. Sift flour with baking powder, salt, and nutmeg, so mix that together. Add alternately with the milk into the shortening and sugar mixture. Pour into greased baking pans, scaling about 4 pounds per bun pan. Sprinkle with streusel topping, page 357 in the cookbook here. And I actually have it written out right here. So originally for the streusel topping, the first ingredient is butter. Originally 1 pint. We'll be using 1/3 of a cup. Next is sugar. Originally a 1/2 gallon. We'll be using 1 1/3 cup. Next is cinnamon. Originally 1/4 of a cup. We'll be using 1 1/2 tablespoons. And then finally flour, 1 quart originally, and we'll be using 2/3 of a cup. Now the makeup for the streusel topping is mix ingredients together into a crumb-like consistency. So we'll be doing that in a separate bowl. And you will sprinkle it on the coffee cake before it goes into the oven. So it goes on top of everything. And for the baking, bake at 375 degrees Fahrenheit to 400 degrees Fahrenheit until done. And usually I always go with the toothpick method, put it into the center, and if it comes out clean, then it is done. So we're going to get into this recipe and see how it turns out. Our coffee cake is out of the oven, it's cooled down, and it smells really good. As you can see here, we have the crumble top, and I've already taken a slice out of it, and the interior looks really good as well. It looks dense but moist, so let's give it a try. I have a slice here on the 1943 U.S. Navy mess tray, so let's get a little piece along with some of that crumble topping and check it out. Oh yeah, it's your standard coffee cake. It actually tastes pretty good, and this recipe is really easy, and I highly suggest that you try it out yourself. And it's another fantastic recipe out of the 1945 edition of the Cookbook of the United States Navy. If you're interested in learning more, please visit the website of the Naval History and Heritage Command, history.navy.mil, and we'll see you at our next cooking video.